But you ready to hop into the meat and potatoes of this?
We here. Let's do it.
So, damn,
Guns up.
I have to get her name for a second. I forgot it. I'll get it in a sec. But
that's funny. I don't know her lady. I don't know her name either. I just know
had
her
saw
as
it this morning when I was looking up stuff. But the brick lady, and this was a woman who was at the club, and she said that she was at the club with a guy, and basically she turned down his advances,
Yeah.
and then he reacted in an unhinged manner and hit her in the face with a brick. Her face was really swollen in the video. And in the video, she was talking about how come nobody helped me. And then there's like a follow up, I think when she was in the ER or the hospital, whatever the case was. And she was like, I did nothing wrong to ever deserve this, X, Y, and Z. So I'm gonna play the clip, and then we'll just comment on it, and then we'll give our thoughts, because there's a lot of different moving parts here. Now that I have a little extra context, that I think is important to talk about, and one of them was I don't mind that you're skeptical, because I'm a skeptic. I don't just see a video and be like, wow, this TikTok video is absolutely the truth. I saw it on, like, no, I'm a skeptic. I'm going to research. I'm going to wait for more information. I don't like having knee-jerk overreactions. And you know what? One day I like felt very solidified in this opinion. I don't know if you remember this. Oh, crap. I think it was Cam Newton. And he was doing like a press conference, and somebody asked him a question about like running routes and like specific.
Yes, it was a lady. It was a lady reporter, and he kind of just was like, "Oh, well, like I've never been asked that question by like a lady or something like that."
Like,
and then it went really bad because they were like, "Oh, it's all misogynistic."
And then the next day he was the worst person ever. And then twos, and a couple of days later, I think it was like 2 days later, everyone was pulling out her old tweets, N-word, all kinds of weird kind of racial stuff. I'm like, see, this is the reason why I don't like to chime in on certain things immediately. I'm not interested in being first. I'm interested in being as correct as I can be and as informed as I can be before I judge. So that was like, this is why I'm like this. I'll wait 4 days after a news story before I say something. But all right, let me just find the video real quick.
Gotcha. Yeah, or at least people have to. I was thinking about it too. It's like, what's the best way to like comment on stuff when you don't know the full picture of everything that's going on? So I've taken quite a bit of thought about that too, especially now that we're doing this podcast and stuff like that. I've put a bit of thought into that. But for that specific situation, while you're still finding it, it's still kind of like, perception and kind of like reality and how you perceive things differently, because like the way he said it was not in a way that I think he was trying to be like ultra misogynistic or nothing like that, but it was just in bad taste to say. But then in counter, because people want to defend him, because no matter who you are on the internet nowadays, now this is not nothing new to sports, but no matter who you are on the internet nowadays, it feels like if you blow up, you end up just getting a culture of people who will protect you no matter what. And so, but to protect him, people went through her stuff. Now, was it right for her to have any of that stuff? Absolutely not. It was terrible. But at the same time, it's like, how does that cancel out what he said to her if you took offense to that? They don't. Because now you're just going, well, look, and we're bringing this up later with the parts you're talking about. It's like, like, just because maybe she's a bad person or racist, does that cancel out the other thing that happened? Like, no, maybe you feel like a little less empathy for her, but it's wrong is wrong. But,
Okay, so I'm going to play this first portion right here. I'm on Playback's channel. I couldn't find the individual video.
Yo, this man just hit me in my face with a brick, and all these black men just watch, and they don't give a brick is. Yeah, this man hit me, grabbed a rock, and it hit me in my face because I would have given him my number. And all y'all just watch. Y'all see that shit? Y'all see that shit? What do y'all do? I want y'all to be a man. I want y'all to be a man and fucking do something. Y'all gonna let a man hit me in my face?
You see it. Okay, you want to watch the ER one too first, or do you want to comment on that first?
Oh, it's up to you, big dog. I can do either one. You know me, I'm already ready to talk. So
okay, I'm play the follow up, and then we'll talk.
anybody in my life to deserve this. I never did anything in my life to hurt anybody. Literally, a man asked me for my number. I said no, and he picked up a brick in front of so many men and was like, "What you gonna do?" And I told all these men, like, "Yo, why this man got a brick on my face?" And he's holding a brick, and all these niggas is watching, and nobody does nothing. And he hits me in my face, and then they all just watch, and they let that nigga get in a car. How is this okay? This is what y'all doing to women?
I will come to Roma Army momentarily because she had like the tea, as they say, or whatever. So, what are your initial thoughts? Because you were pretty, you brought this up to me first. So I want your kind of take first, and then I'm gonna hop on with you because I think you and I are a little bit aligned on this because there's some things that I like. It's like the Bernie Mac meme. Like I don't condone this behavior, but I understand it to some degree. But what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so starting from what we learned from those things. Yeah, for me, I was just kind of from the standpoint that like my first initial reaction was like, that's terrible. My goodness, I can't believe that happened to her. That should not happen to anybody, especially when she's explaining the situation with just like she just rejected a guy, and like this is why women fear for their life and stuff like that. Like you just rejected somebody and they hit you with a brick, and then the whole portion about like, oh, nobody stepped up to protect her and all that. I did legitimately like feel bad. It was just like, yo, like like that's crazy. But as a man and kind of as a understanding of certain situations, I do understand it from the situation that and a lot of men comment this. I just don't necessarily know if I react the same way. Like you said, I can understand it, but I'm not sure what I would have done in that situation. I can't tell you because I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of men were basically just became a big gender war thing. A lot of men were just basically like, that's a stranger. I don't know the situation. And a lot of men have either A, end up dying, B, end up getting charged, or C, the women goes back to the person even though you tried to defend her. And I understand all three of those things. That's something that as a man you do kind of you tend to understand. I know you talked about you had experience with that before, so just as good. I've never had technically that experience, but I have had people in my circle and stuff like that dealt with similar things. Now, for me, I said at least if nothing else, I'm going to call the police and I'm going to ask if she's okay, because if you get hit with a brick, you have the potential to literally die, and that's like not okay. Now, in the video, now that I've heard it again, because I couldn't remember the exact details, she said in there that she was saying that like, oh, he walked up to me with a brick and asked me like what I'm gonna do, and then hit her with it. So if nothing else, maybe I'd be like, hey, yo, bro, like you really gonna hit her with a brick? Like, nah, like don't do that. Like try to de-escalate her or something. But like you and me were talking about off screen, was just like, if he just picked up a brick and hit her with it, there's no guarantee you could have reacted that quickly, because first of all, you're just stunned this is even happening.
I don't
So
have
you probably just
filters,
caught
so I
off
can't see
guard.
that shit coming. Shit happens fast sometimes.
Right, exactly. So like, and part of it is always the bystander effect. And anybody who knows about that, it's just the fact that if a bunch of people are watching things happen, you always just kind of expect somebody else to step up, so nobody ends up doing anything. So that was kind of first of my initial thoughts when I first watched it. I felt terrible. I felt like if nothing else, I would at least ask if she was like okay and called the police, because like that's not okay. And maybe like took a picture of the guy or something, because I think that was kind of crazy too. That was another thing I thought, like nobody, as much as like we're in this culture where everybody videotapes everything and did all that, like nobody recorded this, had the situation and stuff like that. I was kind of like, in a way, I was kind of shocked by that, because that's normally like a thing that always happens. So that was my initial thoughts.
Yeah. So initially, I was like, that's obviously like in my head when I see something, I'm most like, if all this is true, this is awful. This is not a great thing. right? And then when I kind of did my own like little investigation into it, I started to see some things I didn't like about it. And so if you go on her TikTok page, she's one of those women who talk a lot about like misogyny and how women are mistreated, and men ain't shit, and you know, boss girl, boss bitch type, whatever energy, behavior, whatever the case is. And as a result of that, a lot of guys were pretty much like, "That's what you get. You don't need a man. You don't need a man. But oh, now that you're being hurt, now you need a man to come defend you. Now we need to man up. But prior to all this, you never need one, right?" And listen, I understand that because a lot of the content that I saw to me comes off as misandry, which is the hatred of men. And I get that, but I don't condone that behavior. Just because she's putting out content out there that you may not like or you feel a type of way about, I don't think that is indicative and a good of you to just be like, oh, you know what, you deserve this because of that, or like,
Right,
did you get?
and you don't know that, and you don't know that when the situation happen. Always the problem with people doing stuff like this is you don't know her. You don't know that in the moment that you're watching this go down or stuff like this happen. So, like, it's for every person. So something happened, you be like, wait, I gotta look you up first. I gotta look at what you're doing. Like, you're not doing that. Like, you're just like, are you seeing a woman get hurt? Most of the time, you would think your natural
Hold up, I
inclination
have
is
to
at
check your
least,
social
yeah,
media history.
yeah, like nobody doing,
You are worthy of
that.
defending. Like what?
Yeah,
Sorry.
nobody's doing it. So you think your natural inclination would just be to like, and nothing else, like I said, at least ask if she was okay. I understand being a little bit cautious, but because you don't know everything and these things tend to turn south even if you jump in to help. But like that's just a weak excuse of the entire thing. Like, nah.
And you brought up the like kind of gender war aspect to it, right? Where a lot of these things, for whatever reason, become this weird proxy for like this weird gender war that's been going on for a while. It's probably always kind of existed, but it's been exacerbated with certain content. You know, women making their like, you know, whatever, get your bag, you don't need to do content. And then you have like manosphere, red pill stuff. Like a good example of this was the Johnny, I almost said Johnny Heard, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. Nobody really cared like that, you know what I'm saying? But it became a stand-in for like how men constantly get screwed over by courts and family courts and I guess civil cases, if you will, and things of that nature. So the men felt emboldened to follow Johnny because it's like we're tired of getting effed over, and if he could win, then maybe we could win. And then the women were like, we have to believe all victims, type of thing, right? So these things happen, and I'm sure because of the way that she also worded it by saying all these men, I want you to be a man. After how the content she puts out bothers a lot of people. But let me ask you this, because I'm sure I think me and you are similar in this way. Um, I know a lot of younger guys that come to me and talk to me. They don't know how to navigate mixed messaging. So it's like, hey, oh shoot, my thing's not plugged. Like, hey, as a man, don't approach me when I'm at my friends. Don't do this. Don't talk to me. Don't DM me. Blah blah this and that. And then from another girl or another situation, they'll be like, "How come men don't approach? How come men don't court anybody anymore?" And stuff like that. So they're constantly getting these mixed messages, like, "You're not shit. You're dusty. You're broke. Stay away from me." But then in certain other contexts, they're seeing the other side of it. And a lot of guys that I talk to, they literally have no idea how to navigate this. They're just confused. They're like, I literally don't know what to do. Like, I just kind of just play work. I play video games. I hang out with the homies, and that's about it. Now, for me, I get that to some degree. But at some point, that just becomes like white noise to me. It doesn't even register. I don't even get an emotional or reaction. I might just be like, well, that's dumb. And I'll keep scrolling. Um, do you feel that they're some guys are justified in feeling like, oh, with all this weird mixed messagings they're getting from the opposite gender, that their unwillingness to help is justified because it's like, well, you don't need a man necessarily, but now that you're in physical danger, you expect me to have the traditional male role. And also a lot of times in a lot of these talking spaces, they're trying to change male and gender roles. So I don't know how if you're like me, where I'm like, see, for me, I'm gonna just do what I believe is right in the moment, just because that's who I am. I'll remove all of that and I'll deal with that later. I'll ask those questions later, but I can't watch something that bad happen in front of me. Though I can understand why people will stand around. So what do you think?
Yes, see, and I think the last point that you made was the point that ultimately I'll go with. You have to. Women are not. First of all, women are not a monolith. Sometimes this perception of all this social media, and I get it, it wears on you. You're seeing it all the time. It's in your face. We're all on these apps and all that all the time. You get tired of seeing all this stuff, and you just get tired of things. But at the end of the day, you have to make decisions based on you as a person, because at the end of the day, you have to this is based on your morals, your ethics, and all that. This is a decision you got to make because you, like you said, you think this is the right thing to do. I'm not all of a sudden gonna start judging women based off of certain women who say things on social media, especially with the level of grifting and just like appealing and interaction farming that people do these days. Now, some of them probably genuinely believe that stuff too, but they also know that it just gets eyes on them and it's easy. You got to do what you think is right. And if I'm seeing something happen with a woman, yes, you have to weigh the risk. Not even reward. Reward's not even the right thing because you shouldn't be doing it for reward. But you have to weigh the risk of stepping in and doing something you believe is gonna be, good or bad or whatever. So you do have to risk that. But yeah, if I feel like I could do something, or if I feel depend on the situation, maybe I will step in, or at least if nothing else, like I always say, maybe I just try to diffuse it because yeah, at the same time, I get it. Like a lot of the men made the comments that they got to make sure they get back home to their family.
Yeah.
And they got to do stuff like that. And that part of it, I really do understand. But another part of me can't just simply watch that type of stuff happen in front of me, or at least like stand around and watch that stuff. Now, if you walk past and stuff happened and you never look back or whatever, and you never really was really paying attention, that's different. But if you stand around looking at this, how can I feel good about myself looking at this directly and not doing anything? Maybe, you got to know yourself. Maybe you're not the biggest dude or the toughest dude. Maybe you can't fight. And I'm all okay. Some people will call you words out your name and stuff like that, but I'm not somebody who'll call you out your name for you not doing things that you don't feel like you're capable of doing, but as long as you do something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. And then the I guess the other component to this too would be, and I agree with what you were saying, by the way, because I spoke about this before, but like I had a situation where I did something like that. I went out my way to help somebody, and she lied about the whole scenario. Her father was a judge. She was caught on camera doing things, with a bunch of men, and she was embarrassed, so she cried, sexual assault, and that was unfortunate, and it almost got me in trouble and lost me a scholarship. So I'm a little I won't lie to you, that's killed my natural hero instinct. Like now, instead of just like doing stuff, I really think about it. Like I'll give you another example that happened pretty recently. Like I have to think about this. During the Raptors parade in 2019, unfortunately some idiots came and there was gunshots that rang and people were running. I saw one of my friends pick up an old man that was getting trampled, right? And there was a part where me and Nat were going somewhere, and there was like a railing where you can go through, but people are so panicking going. There was this one girl who her face kept getting hit into like the railing because she was trying to go through it, but everyone was so scared they kept hitting her, and me and Nat blocked it off so she can go through, and then we can go through. Like you just do it in the moment, kind of thing. Like I don't need to know anything about her life like that. Like her content could be the worst content ever if she makes content, but in that moment I didn't care. I just like, yo, you guys are like trampling on this lady, so you just do what you got to do, kind of thing. But yeah, shoot, what was I gonna say? Oh, now the problem that I have now with the fact that anybody can hold a camera and record themselves and say stuff and tell a story is I am naturally a skeptic. So just because I saw something doesn't mean I do or don't believe you, but I'm gonna wait and see until there's more information to see what is and isn't the truth, because the truth is the thing I care about the most. And a lot of her credibility was called into question. Now I think some of it happened solely due off the fact that like, well, she's making this content, fuck her. And I'm not okay with that. But apparently this is a third time that she's told a story of being violently assaulted by a man and then making a GoFundMe after, to the point, as of right now, her GoFundMe is actually under investigation. I thought that meant police was investigating, but GoFundMe themselves, I think, from what I saw, they're the one investigating it. So there are some people who call their credibility into question. I don't think you should be a cynic. I think cynicism is too far. And I kind of like what Jordan Peterson said about Dr. Jordan B. Peterson said about cynicism. Like if you're a true skeptic or whatever, or a cynicist, you're gonna question it to the point where you go back to baseline. So you're so skeptical about that you question your own cynicism and then you come back to like the middle ground. And I thought that was kind of apt. So don't be overly distrustful, and I understand why you would be, but sometimes just see something and you don't have to comment. You just saw it, keep it there, and as more things come out, add that to the pile and then make your decision. I'm gonna play the stuff that showed like that she may have been lying or whatnot.
Oh, real quick before you
Yeah.
do that, I thought the most interesting thing, and I didn't comment on it, but I thought one of the most interesting things that somebody said, about the first one before the ER, was that if she got hit by a brick, why isn't she bleeding? Like, and when he said that, I was like, huh. You know,
Yeah.
if I did get hit by a brick in the side of the head or the face, and it was hard, I probably should be busted open and bleeding. But at the same time, I can't go with that as a fact because I'm not a doctor. I don't know if her skin reacts differently, or her face, like anything. I don't know any of that stuff.
It is
But I did think
possible
it
there's
was an
only
interesting
blunt
point.
force trauma from the hit, which caused swelling, and it didn't lacerate the skin to cause any bleeding. That's possible, I suppose. Even though bricks might have little nooks and crannies that can cut, but I didn't even think about that, honestly.